Hi, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the session with myself, Giles Cochran. Very nice to see you, Carolyn. Welcome, Sam. Glad you could make it. Hey, Konstantinos. Good to see you. Very warm welcome to you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, hey, Caroline. Hope you had a good, nice weekend. Busy. Oh, it's good. Very nice. Well done. Lovely to have you, Sam. Glad you could make it. Well, we've got a busy week in the markets as well, Carolyn. But the good news, we've got a quiet start to a busy week, I'm hoping. I was seeing family over the weekend. That was very nice. I had a very refreshing weekend. Hassan, good to see you. Okay, without further ado, let's get stuck into the session. So as we start the session, sentiment is positive on the heavily rumored from last week EU-US trade deal. So it's going to be 50% baseline tariffs on European exports, and there's a commitment from Europe to buy US products, particularly US goods, US energy. Now, we've seen markets rally firmly higher on the open in the US equity futures market. DAX was up sharply in the session. It's now off the best levels. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bit of a buy the rumors, sell the fact response. This trade deal was heavily rumored. You remember equity markets started rallying last week on this deal, and it was rumored so heavily that it almost felt like it happened. The EU-US trade deal has now been confirmed, and we'll be looking at the order flow to get a sense of where we go from here. But if you notice the ES, we have gapped higher at the open. So price gapped over, we now filled that gap. And if you remember, technical trading 101, once you fill that gap, you've got this rising window, and the bottom of this rising window forms strong support. So we've got at the very least a little bounce there. We'll need to see this push above 6412 to really confirm some upside. But for now, we're just falling into that sort of rising window on the gap on the EU-US trade deal. So that's where we're at in terms of sentiment. It is broadly positive. We've also got a lot of US data out this week, and we've got the Fed meeting this week. So we're in the blackout period. And the dollar has reasons to gain. We've got a revised second quarter GDP coming out, JOLTS jobs coming up, non-farm payroll on Friday, and we've got the June core PCE print coming out on Thursday, which should show stickier inflation. So all of that should support the dollar. So it's not a surprise to see the dollar lifted as we start the week, even though the actual economic calendar is very light. See, there's an absence of major drivers in the calendar. We've got Dallas Fed manufacturing business index is unlikely to move markets at all. So, we can just totally ignore that. It's 3:30 during the session. But in terms of like intraday trading, you'd expect temporary euro dollar selling. So euro dollar selling the rally would make sense in terms of intraday FX. Aside from that, if you just take any sort of retracements high on the euro dollar would be suitable for selling. So looking for technique would be like looking for a pullback and then sort of bearish flank pattern, then selling the move lower. That would make sense, or just selling from any retracements up to that daily pivot point would make sense in terms of daily FX trading. Looking at commodities, we've seen continued downside in gold. Now, as we covered during our sessions, gold was selling off on just relief that the macro risk from the 1st of August tariff deals was looking like it's going to fade into the background. EU made a deal with the US now, and a lot of that sort of hedging that investors have been doing on the worst case scenario that tariffs ballooned out of control over the first, that's been unwinding. That's why we've seen gold falling lower. That's why we've seen silver falling lower. We've also got gold pressured by the stronger dollar as well. So selling gold rallies makes sense today in terms of any intraday moves. And looking at gold, you can see just sort of breaking out this near-term channel, pullbacks and looking for opportunities to sell makes sense as long as the dollar is strong and as long as there's relief that markets are experiencing security over the baseline tariffs, which are now sort of 15% for the EU, well down from the 30 to 50% that was mooted from last week. Okay, so that's what's going on. Copper, I've closed my copper longs on that little pennant pattern, just as we were sort of stalling around those highs, closed it out at the end of last week. Similarly with silver, I'm just waiting for a deeper pullback. Just close that up at those highs at the end of last week, just waiting for a deeper pullback so that I can get into more developed silver longs. WTI and Brent crude, oil prices are up on the news that Trump's giving less than 50 days for Putin to stop his invasion of Ukraine, right? So he wants to stop it. That's boosting oil prices. OPEC are meeting at 2 o'clock today, but their meeting is August the 3rd. Oh yeah, here we go. This is it. So Trump's just said now, make sure, hang on, I'll just turn the squawk back on. He said he's going to make a new deadline for about 10 to 12 days from today. Doesn't see any progress being made, right? That's what's boosting oil prices. If you just take a look at oil contract, right? Right, you can see oil prices surging again, okay? Buyers, all those sellers getting trapped here. Buyers just pushing up and up and up. And earlier in the session, Trump was also saying, very disappointed in Russian President Putin reducing the 50 days. So now he's giving him 10 to 12 days from today. That puts the pressure on. Any sellers getting trapped here by buyers, you'd expect immediate upside. So just as we saw sellers trapped by buyers pushed up, sellers trapped by buyers pushed up. If you see more sellers step in, push up, then on the tick chart, then that would be suitable for going long in oil. And you can see here the equity markets just falling in line with this headline that Trump's going to make a new deadline for about 10 to 12 days. That's just a little bit of extra risk that's coming to the market. You can see here, buyers can try and trap these sellers at that second standard deviation. A better entry would be if sellers get trapped against that first standard deviation. Okay, so we're testing this level here. Now, looking at price, looking at the market profile from overnight session, what do we see in the E-mini? Rally up, and now we've seen selling as we've come into the US Open. Buy the rumor, sell the fact response wouldn't surprise me, but we're in this window. So we're in this rising window and in a big support area. Now, if we see a short coming in below the 6,400 area, then we could look for potentially further selling. The only problem we've got, and this is a bit tricky, is we've got this other support area here. So that 9.5 area to here, I'd be very careful of that because this is strong support now on that gap. So really what we want to go to is if we get underneath this area here, then we could potentially look for a drop down to that pivot point. Just watch out for support of this area. And if we can get above this swing point now, then that will probably open up a retest potentially to that R2 pivot point. Got value area low, value area high. We're opening outside of that from the European session, but we are opening above value from Friday. So it's on balance volume is lower. So really the bias is a bit negative, right? We've got a fade from the overnight highs now, and we've got responsive sellers in the short term. So if we remain underneath that R1 pivot point, then we're looking to fade the rally short. Right, so staying under this area, we want to fade rallies and go short. Just got to be careful of some buyers coming in at this area. Hey Ryan, good to see you, mate.
Trump, just noting that if Iran starts nuclear again, we'll wipe it out fast. And just separately, the OPEC Plus JMMC meeting has started, according to sources.
Okay, so that OPEC meeting's ongoing, so watch out for oil prices. That's happening now. No policy announcements are expected, so if we do get a policy announcement, it will move on.
Some context regarding the comment there from Trump about Iran. Did hear earlier by Iran International that Iran could reconsider its nuclear weapon stance if future threats demand it.
It would move oil markets. So, bottom line.
And President Trump, speaking still, says Iran has been sending out nasty signals.
Up above 642, and I'd say earlier now, up above 6406, then we look for a move up to R2, maybe the 22, the value area highs. Otherwise, underneath this level, looking for a drop back down to 6385. Now, looking at the overnight session, we can see that the delta is positive with a sudden influx of sellers who've come in at a retest of this 440 area. If you look here, we've got the value area high from last week. So we don't want to be shorting here because that is the value area high from last week. We have to get under that region to look for short. Otherwise,
the Chinese
watch out for buyers.
Zhipu has released an open source large language model, GLM 4.5.
And again here, we don't want to be shorting this level because you can see here, this is the value area high from Friday, and we're now in a very strong buying zone. Okay, this is a strong buying zone. Yes, we've had a significant delta to the downside, but what we're looking for here is either a push up above these highs, ideally above the 6,440 region. Otherwise, we're looking for a push back up to that 444 and then looking for sellers again. So the biases with sellers, even though the delta is positive from the overnight session, right? As we come into the New York Open, we're going to be led by the delta and just keep our eyes on what's happening. So we don't want to be selling from this level here because look, it's the value area high from Friday and it's the weekly value area high. So this is not a sell area. This is a buying area. But because the market is so responsive lower, that we don't want to be trying to bottom fish. Okay, we just got to be aware that you could easily find some buyers come in at this level. Earnings, big names coming up. Really midweek, got Meta, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, all Wednesday and Thursday after the close.
Says we'll be announcing pharma tariffs in the very near future.
In the meantime, there's not a lot going on, so quite a quiet start to the week, but it will be busy. We've got ADP jobs, non-farm payroll, GDP out of the US, just a quiet start. So and the Fed meeting as well. What we're doing, we're going to be led by the delta and led by the order flow to get a real sense of what's going on.
Noting they will be dealing with the UK on pharma.
Right. So at the moment on those, it's probably that President Trump headlines on Russia, new deadline for about 10 to 12 days. So that has just inserted risk into the market. Let's see if that gave gold a little nudge higher.
President Trump says we wouldn't use pharma tariffs as a block for the UK. So Trump says we would not use pharma tariffs as a block for the UK. Okay, so a little bit of a bump in gold prices, not a lot, but just a little bit of a halting the fall. So we'll see how that goes. EU $600 billion US investment is to come from the private sector, according to Politico, citing two EU officials on these $600 billion investments.
So as it stands, sellers have trapped all these buyers here now, okay? So as we come into the open, right, then we might see some selling off that standard deviation, but we're in a kind of chop zone and we're right in that heavy support zone.
The report does note that it is not something that the EU as a public authority can guarantee. It's something which is based on the intentions of the private companies.
So we don't want to be selling into this area, right? And if anything, we're happy to sell on pullbacks, particularly up to that 444 region, okay? Otherwise, we just got to wait. So we've got 15 minutes now to the open. So in the meantime, you can see that sellers have trapped buyers here. So any moves up to that standard deviation, you expect sellers, a little bit of reactive selling. I'm going to wait to the open. If I can push above these sellers here, then I'm looking for a pullback and looking to buy and go long, okay? So just going to wait. It's a bit choppy at the moment. And if you look at this on the candle price chart with the TPO, you can see, look, we've just fallen into that big support level, right, which is the weekly value area high and Friday's value area high. So we're in value as it stands. And from earlier in the session, we can see we've rejected that value area low from the Globex Open. So that's where we're at. That's what to look for. Those buyers joining these buyers. So that's 200 buyers, another 200 buyers. So 400 buyers have stepped in down here. So just be careful now. This is always the danger with this because we're right in this kind of support area. On the 5 minute. Okay, so still happy to short here if we see good evidence, but again, now we've had another, right, nearly 300 buyers stepping down here. So there's some heavy buyers coming in. How's the NQ doing? NQ finding some dip buyers as well. Okay. Okay. Right. If we see those buyers get trapped, I will short that. And here we see quite a. Let's see if these buyers get trapped, I'll short there. But buyers still here. Look at them. They've been building in, but if I get those buyers trapped, I will short. They're trapped, right? So I'll go short there. All right, okay. So I'm short, looking to see if I can run down to this area here. Stops just above that area. Let's see. On the 5 minute, trying to go into that area. Delta flirting negative. We've got those buyers trapped here. So we've had a pull back to that area, buyers trapped. So this is not a bad area to look for shorts. Let's see. Okay, buyers coming in again. Now hitting the point of control. Buyers trying to trap those sellers there. And succeeding. Yeah. And actually, those sellers weren't trapped there. So they've managed to get in. Let's see. I'm going to be stopped out shortly on this. Okay, I'm out on this. Now, is that worth going long on? That's the question. I'm not going to go long on it. I'm just going to wait. But that's a message. It's a message saying that that's a potential attempt at support. I wouldn't rule out another short if I can start moving lower here, but let's see. Okay, I'll try a short now. We've now got some sellers trapping those buyers there. So maybe give it another go to see if that can turn into a nice shorting opportunity.
Just a bit further here from Trump on China, who does note they're going to be setting a tariff for the rest of the world, and that's what they have to pay. So Trump on China says they're going to be setting a tariff for the rest of the world, and that's what they have to pay. A bit further here from Trump regarding China, he said we'd love to see them open up their country.
Okay, so having another short in this area. See sellers trying to come in now. Okay, a little bit of movement now. See the delta starting to build in now negatively. That's good. Okay, if we get these buyers trapped down at the bottom, then we can go short again. Another position in.
Just one to be aware of out of China, according to Xinhua, China's Xi does issue instructions for flood prevention and disaster relief. And on the geopolitical footing here via Sky News Arabia, citing the Iranian president, does note they do not seek war and are ready for dialogue. It's the Iranian president saying they do not seek war and are ready for dialogue. That is via Sky News Arabia.
Okay, sellers trying to come in now and trap some of these buyers. Right, that will be suitable for shorting if I just get some of these late buyers trapped. Otherwise, I might just take this off.
And just casting attention to the precious metal space, particularly looking at spot gold, just seeing the downside continue to accelerate here with spot gold, just dipping beneath that to 315 level. That has taken out that overnight low. Attention, of course, on the round 3,300 to the downside.
Okay, let's see what's happening. So we need to see these lows clear out. I want to see these buyers get trapped. Right, I'm out of that because this could easily turn around down at this bottom. See, because if we go over to the 5-minute chart, you see, have we got any buyers trapped? We've got those buyers trapped there, right? But we got buyers building in, you see, and you could just suddenly see them building in this area here. So quickly exited. Now, if I see them trapped, then I can keep going short. So let's see.